All right, we are taking some baby steps, and I don't mean to like disparage you or hurt your feelings by saying we're taking baby steps. You're not babies. But once upon a time, we did do stuff about writing algebraic expressions. What does that look like? B plus 2. That's an algebraic expression. And once upon a time, we did do a little bit with describing situations, but we did not do very much. There was literally like 2, maybe 3 problems. And then to answer some questions, that part is actually a little bit easier. The solve problems is basically the answer questions part. But one thing we did in class, you kind of walked around and did this as a group, but I want to talk to you in case you're like, you know what, that still didn't really click with me, is we're taking some of these and we're going to actually write them as numeric expressions. And if you're like, wait a second, didn't you say algebraic? And I did. This is the step before algebraic. So ... then the next thing you would do is algebraic, okay? So to write these numeric expressions, you read this stuff and you say the temperature was 5 degrees Celsius in the morning and dropped 7 degrees by night. 5 minus 7. That's all you have to do on this one. However, I'm going to go ahead and do these back to back where I'm going to write the algebraic expression as well. And I'm going to give a couple of examples. So like the temperature was 5 degrees in the morning and dropped 7 by night. So what we could do is say, you know what if we just interpreted it as we don't know what the temperature is, but we know it's going to go down by 7. So that's a possible algebraic expression. And if you're like, I don't like that because I want to get the 5 in there. Okay, great. Then you don't know what the temperature was before it was 5 degrees in the morning. So let's just, again, kind of pretend that we're going to add 5 and then eventually it goes down 7. That's another possible algebraic expression. And this was the numeric expression, okay? A diver descends 8 meters below sea level. They're going down 8. They're going to subtract 8. And then they rise 3 meters, just like that. An algebraic version of this could be just like t plus 3. It could be t minus 8. It could be t minus 8 plus 3. And that you have the diver. I don't know why I use t. I think it's because I use t over here. But you don't have to use t. You could use any symbol, any letter, pretty much. Your bank account starts at 0. You spend $12. You earn $5. So, yeah, this is how that could look. You could also have just done this because if you start at 0, there's really not a lot of reason to put a 0 right there other than for communication of, hey, we have started at 0, okay? To, again, make this algebraic, t minus 12 plus 5. Maybe we'll just pretend you started with an unknown amount of money. And that's the thing that you're getting at here is you're supposed to be communicating with yourself that, listen, t is an unknown amount. So if I use that, that's what I'm communicating. A football team gains 6 yards, then loses 15 yards. So you could write plus 6 minus 15, but how often do we see a plus out in front doing anything? We never see that. So I'd rather see this. But if you want to do an algebraic expression and you say, again, I use t. T for team, football team, let's say they gain 6 yards, but they lose 15 yards. I mean, this would communicate that they had an unknown starting position, so to speak. Moving on, the stock price drops 12 points. It drops, and then it rises 7. This one kind of leads itself pretty easily to just adding an S out front, because what was the stock price? It didn't just begin at negative 12, right? It had to start somewhere, and it started at an unknown spot, right? You start at sea level, you climb 15 meters, you descend 20. That works. You could be the climber who you add 15, you subtract 20. You could be the climber who just subtracts 20, descends 20. That's fine. The team loses 3 games, wins 4, and then loses 2 more. So the team loses. They win. They lose 2 more. Again, to make this algebraic, maybe I'm going to use G for games. g minus 3 plus 4 minus 2, or just maybe g plus 4 minus 2. Again, just getting ourselves to take a baby step towards this. The temperature increased by 9, so again, plus 9, and then drop 14. So really, we just want to write it like this, except that, again, putting a T right there makes it really nice for us to go, hey, the temperature existed, then it went up, then it went down. The temperature starts at -3 and rises 4. Maybe the temperature just goes down 3. Maybe the temperature just goes up 4. A gamer's score starts at 20 and then decreases by 30 points. Well, maybe they had a score before that, or maybe they didn't. Anyway, the algebraic portion of this is pretty kind of up in the air. It depends on how you want to write it. You owe your friend $10 and you borrow 5 more. Let's say you have some dollars and you owe your friend 10 and you borrow 5 more. This could still work out. Even realistically, you can owe your friend money but still have some money, right? The elevator is on floor 2. It goes down 5 floors, then up 1. So something funny about this is the elevator being on floor 2, we could just say minus 5 plus 1, but we could also say 2 minus 5 plus 1. We could say the floor minus 5 plus 1. Again, the algebraic part of this is kind of just up in the air. So this was our first kind of baby step with numeric expressions getting into algebraic expressions. Now we're going to move on to describing a little bit more complicated ones. So like I said, we're going to be moving a little bit closer, baby steps wise, into writing some algebraic expressions. So let's do that. You earn $10 per hour and work H hours. So you actually earn a specific amount and you work for an unknown amount of hours. Well, if you work 1 hour, that is $10. If you work 2 hours, $20. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, you get the idea. So it seems like if you work 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, right, that's what you're going to get. Well, how much do you earn every hour? How much is that? How much is that? It is 10. So we could write that as you are 10H, but then we are going to spend $25. In fact, I'm going to take a timeout right now and talk to you about something that I think some students are still like having this weird interaction with, that they are like, what's the difference between subtracting and a negative? Now, there is no difference. Like if I'm going to subtract $25 for dinner, that's the same as having negative $25 from my paycheck. Combining my paycheck with negative $25, right? Is my paycheck minus 25, or combining, like essentially adding my paycheck to negative 25? So the reason I'm going over that is because some of these things are going to be negative, and you are going to know that because you understand the language, okay? So basically here, I asked one of my classes I've started a pattern because I also use this word, and I said, fill in more of my pattern. So subtract, negative, remove. We obviously just said spend. I think one of the first things they said was take away. And then really it kind of got a little bit trickier because they were like, oh, let's see. They had lose, they had deduct. Gosh, now I'm trying to remember all the things they said. But even still, you get the idea that all of this stuff is basically subtraction. So why am I telling you this? Because it's a little bit of foreshadowing of when we have that, when we need to write our own real stories, that there's actually just some vocabulary involved to help us to really get there. So let's jump back up here. You have $40. You owe your friend D dollars. That's it. You owe $15 and then you borrow X more dollars. I'm going to go ahead and say that's subtracting because you will be owing more money, right? In fact, I guess we could even go over here and throw that on here. if you owe, if you borrow, right? Did we say spend? Yeah, we said spend. Sorry. Anyway, you start with $12. You buy 3 snacks. You buy 3 snacks. But this was money, and this is snacks. So those aren't like terms until we write S, because that represents the money, okay? So let's move over here. You save $5 each. You save $5 each week for W weeks. That's 5W. And then you buy a $30 game. And if you're like, well, these aren't like terms. This was money. This is money. And yes, this is weeks. But since we don't know it right now, we can't simplify it. But if all of a sudden we had information about what that was, we could do it. For example, after everyone finished this first page and had some other time to work on these, I said, let's pause and pretend that we know some information. So what if you worked 4 hours? What if you worked 4 hours? Well, that would be 10 times 4 minus 25. Well, that's 40 minus 25. You would have $15. That would be the outcome. What if you owed $19? Well, so that would be 40 minus 19, right? And what would you be left with? You would be left with $21. And then what if you borrowed $11? Well, you owed 15, and now you're about to lose 11 more, go 11 more negative. You would have negative $26. That's how much you owe. What if the snacks cost $3? Well, then we would take that and we would plug it in right here, and it would be 12 minus 3 times 3. That's 12 minus 9. We would have $3. So like money left over is what that is. And then this one, I tried to be a little sneaky. What if you save for 2 months? Now I realize you're watching the video, so it's harder to be sneaky without just feeling kind of like totally deceptive. So I said 2 months because this was in the context of weeks. And so live and in person, there were some people who were like, but then most people were like, that's different. That's 8 weeks. And so that would be 5 times 8, which is 40. We're subtracting 30 because of that. You would have $10. Okay, so we were able to do extra work because we were pretending we knew the solutions. The rest of these, we will not know the solutions, okay? You score P points in each round. In each of 3 rounds. 3 rounds times P points. Each round of golf takes 4 hours. After 8 rounds, how many hours have you played? Well, that's 4 times R. You score 15 points, then you lose 20 points. That's it. And yes, it would be negative 5. You start with X points and lose 5 per round for 4 rounds. So you could either write it like that or like that. A basketball player scores 2 points per shot, 2 points per shot, and makes S shots. So 2S, and then loses 3 for fouls. Each movie ticket costs $9. You buy 9 tickets, 9T. You have 50 candies, and you give away 7 to each of 5 friends. So one thing I'd like to point out just real quick is in all of these little multiplying ones, there's this word each. There was each again. Let's see, there's one down here. There was per, and in fact, wait, how is that related to each? Because we ended up multiplying, right? And there was another each. There was another each. So listen. When you see each, you can think multiply. When you think per, you can think multiply. Just think of the way you talk. You know, if we go to the store and we each buy 3, then however many people there are, these are people. If they each buy 3, they get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Or if you were to say it this way, there's 4 per person. Well, then 1, 2, 3, 4. You get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 per person, or 3 each. Okay, you get the idea. You earn $12 per chore. Oh my goodness, it's per $12 per chore. And then you buy $15 of lunch, just like that. You spend, okay, now this one was a tricky one. Let's just walk slowly. You spend twice as much on clothes. 2 times, this is clothes. Notice I wrote the word clothes because you are comparing that to as how much you spend on shoes. So this is how much you spend on shoes, and you spend double this amount on clothes. So what you could do is say 2 times shoes plus shoes. That is your total that you spend. So how about we do this? 2s plus s is 3s. I like both of those answers, okay? You walk forward F steps and backward 6. You pay $25. You pay a $25 fee each month for M months, plus a $10 startup fee. All right, we are ready to officially go to this part where I said there was a little foreshadowing of something we were going to have to do that required some vocabulary. Here was the vocabulary. Sure, there is other vocabulary when it comes to adding, but let's zoom in here. This -3 is like we are going to subtract 3 things. We'll have -3 things. This is funkier in our own speech. Never have I ever gone up to someone and say, hey, give me -3 boxes. Like, that's weird. Or I haven't said I'm going to remove 3 boxes. Oh wait, I have said I'm going to remove 3 boxes, but I haven't said I'm going to -3 boxes, right? Okay. So down here, this is one thing you could say. He removed 3 boxes each. In fact, that we have a little bit of a disagreement with how our grammar sounds. We removed 3 boxes each. Remember, because we would be more than one person. So in this scenario, however many people there were, right here is the number of people. And what are we doing? We're removing 3 boxes each. Want another version of that? Okay. You lose 3 points per foul. And if you're like, what game is that? It doesn't matter. But just pretend you are going to lose 3 per foul. Notice how I snuck one in that's each and per, yeah? I'm going to zoom out here to do the rest. X minus 12. X is just a thing we don't know. So it could literally be anything. In fact, one of the goofier examples we had was I had some frogs until I threw 12 across the river. That was an example we had in class. How about to change this to I had, because I'd still like some frogs. I have some frogs. Oops, I can't erase. And I threw 12 across the river. That works, because I don't know how many frogs I've got, but I know that I have removed 12, okay? So should we add through to our example up here? I mean, sure, but I'm just whatever. Let's move on. Do you need another example? You had some points, you lost 12 points. The number 22 was kind of an easy one. Yes, this was a little bit harder. This one and this one, they get even harder. So 2 times x plus 5. So there's a couple things we could do here. You could focus on the red part. You could focus on the blue part. If we focus on the blue part, it's kind of like saying I have 2 rounds or 2 games or 2 boxes, right? It's saying that you have groups involved. And if you're like, okay, well then what does that make this? That is your group. So yes, there are still groups involved, but it is what is inside of the group. So it's like some amount plus 5. So we could use our example of like the frogs of I have some amount of frogs. By the way, I had to draw a little frog box, and I tried to be goofy like a little kid was writing frogs on a box. Anyway, you have an amount of frogs, and then it's like you're going to throw in 5 frogs. So imagine that you're now saying, I have a box of frogs, period. I add 5 into, how about I add 5 more? So how many frogs do you have? I don't know, but I have a box that I've added 5 to. And then you could say, I doubled my amount of frogs. So here's what I just said. I have a box of frogs. That's X. I add 5 more. And then I doubled my amount. My amount is this thing I'm talking about, okay? So here, I guess I should do that again. I doubled it. I'm doubling my amount. So that is 2x plus 5. So that wasn't 2 rounds or 2 games. It was 2 boxes, and in which case we had an amount, right? So what if we did 2 rounds? So, and hang on. Let me just reemphasize what just happened. So over here, we started with this part, right? We focused on that first. And so that's how my wording started, right? My wording began with I have that part, and then I described how I did this. So if I slide over here, one thing I could do is start with the doubling part. So what if I have in 2 rounds of golf, that's golf, I hit some bad shots, and I hit 5 decent shots. Let's see. That does not work. Because here's what I just did. I said in 2 rounds of golf, I had some good shots. I had some bad shots and 5 decent shots. And that is divided over the course of 2 rounds. Well, that didn't work. And I didn't mean to do that, but that is an example of how these can be a little tricky, right? Especially when you start like this. So let's try it again. In 2 rounds of golf, each round I hit some bad shots and 5 good ones. So now, here we go. In 2 rounds of golf, each, 2 each, I hit some bad shots and 5 good shots. So if you were reading this, if you're doing this math, you would distribute the 2, and you would say, yep, he had double some bad shots, and he had 10 good shots because of the each, okay? In 2 rounds of golf each, in 2 rounds of golf, comma, each round I hit some good shots, some bad shots, and I'm sorry, I'm really screwing this up just by reading it. In 2 rounds of golf, each round I hit some bad shots and 5 good ones. 2 rounds each, some bad ones, 5 good ones, okay? Let's see, the last one we're gonna do is negative 2x plus 4. So let's slide over here. Negative 2x, negative 2 times x plus 4. So again, if we start with this part, is I have some pizza and 4 extra slices. Then Jeff ate everything I had twice. So here's what just happened. Jeff said, hey, I'm going to take what you got. And I'm going to remove it from you. And how many times does he remove it? Twice. Okay? This might seem a little weird, but again, I started here, and then described how did I get the double. He did it twice. Okay? Now we could try it another way if we did sports, is that I lost 2 games. Let's see, I lost 2 games, and in each game, wow, if I could only write, and in each game, I had 4 points and some penalties. So I wrote it a little bit in a switched up order, but I lost 2 games, and in each, I had 4 points and some penalties. Here, I'll use a P for penalty instead of an S for some. So how is that? How are these two the same? Well, they are the same because I can rewrite it like this, right? As long as you keep the signs the same. And I could even write this sentence in a different way. I lost 2 games, and in each game I had some penalties and 4 points. Okay, so yes, these were tricky. Hopefully you're somewhat catching what I'm trying to put down here. If you have questions, if you feel like you need to run through some examples of this, let me know.